check.
All right. Oh, can you hear me? Hello? No, this one doesn't work. Test, test. No. Test, 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 test.
Testing. Testing. There you go.
I need the salt and the cinnamon. Test, test. Okay, we're good now.
There we go.
Yep. Are we live? Okay, perfect. Like to call the May Bromley East Charter School Board of Directors meeting to an open at 6:58 p.m.
All right, we'll do roll call. Director Marugo,
Here.
Director Saldivar,
Here.
Director Stickle,
Here.
Director Pinsack,
Here.
Director O'Hare is present virtually. Everyone is present. We have a quorum.
All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, yeah, there's a flag, a virtual flag.
Oh,
if you
there
like,
we go.
If you like that option also, or a real flag.
Okay.
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a volunteer to read our commitment to governing style?
I will read it. As a reminder to the public and directors, the board will govern lawfully observing policy governance principles with an emphasis on outward vision rather than internal procedure, encouragement of diversity in viewpoints, strategic leadership more than administrative detail, clear distinction of board and chief executive roles, collective rather than individual decisions, future rather than past or present, and governing proactively rather than reactively.
Thank you. Volunteer to read our mission and vision statements, please.
I'll just keep going.
Yep.
Mission statement. Bromley East Charter School empowers students to achieve academic excellence and leadership through critical thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and character development in a safe environment. Vision. Bromley East Charter School strives to become a preeminent charter school in the state of Colorado, where all students realize their maximum intellectual, character, and leadership potential in a diverse and well-defined ethical environment.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there a motion on the floor to approve our consent agenda?
Director Stickle will motion to approve the consent agenda.
Director Saldivar will second.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 5, executive session. I, Director Marugo, move to enter executive session at 7. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. It's because we don't have anyone here that I just in my head. Yeah, I got out of order. My bad. Do either of you want to make a public comment for the record? Not this time. Let the record show there is no public comment for today's meeting. Now moving on to item 5, executive session. I motion to move into executive session at 7:02 pursuant of CRS 24-6-4024E negotiations to discuss the executive director's compensation. Is there a second?
Director Saldivar will second that motion.
Motion carries unanimously. The board will return after executive session.
Then you carry her carefully, Therese.
Don't drop her.
I got you, Carl.
Yes, it's always cold in there.
There's no
Yes.
room in this school that is.
They need to be settled.
session. Okay. Are we ready? Are we live already? Awesome.
You gotta pick a password you remember.
All right, let me see here. Gotta pull up the. All right, I motion to return from executive session at 8:04 p.m. Is there a second?
Director Stickle will second.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on to agenda item 6, monitoring reports. I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Jen Shaver.
All right, well, I would love to welcome Bart up here to do monitoring. Did you say 3F?
Yes.
3F. Okay, yeah, to present monitoring report 3F.
Put some peanut butter and then
Do you want this or do you want that one? Sometimes.
No, I don't, you got this.
You have to talk like this.
I'll go with this. Good evening. I'm going to be presenting the monitoring report 3F. "3F is just basically a recap of our budget planning process. I'm going to highlight briefly a few things that we generally don't allow in the budgeting process. Risks incurring those situations or conditions described as unacceptable in 3D. Omits credible projection of revenues and expenses, separation of capital and operational items, income statement, balance sheet, and disclosure planning assumptions. Plans the expenditure in any fiscal year of more funds that are conservatively projected to be received unless the expense driving excess is planned and authorized." What that means is if there's a planned spending that's in excess of revenues for that fiscal year, thought out, projected, and authorized, then that could occur. Provides less for board activities during the year than is set forth in the cost governance policy. In terms of data reported, this fiscal year, PPR will account for anticipated about 12.7 million. This is about 82% of our projected revenue, 15.6 million. Next year, that should supply about 83% of operating revenue. Current fiscal year total general fund revenue per student about 12,841, and that's expected to increase to about 13,500. In terms of general fund operating revenue, that includes the sub-fund of the grants fund, so that's included in that total. In terms of FY25, fund equity will at least increase by the debt service coverage ratio. We'll get into the specifics there, but I alluded to that earlier. This year, we're planning to increase fund balance north of $1 million, and next year, it's projected to increase 1.5. That's going to set us up nicely for our refi in September of 2025, which is FY26, because we plan to peel off about 3 to 3.5 million out of fund balance, general fund balance, to pay down the debt, so that that finance equation looks really solid. In terms of our reserves that we have in the building corporation for replacement of mechanicals, currently we have $2,174,852, and that's growing at about almost a 5.5% clip. Based on what's happening in the economy, that will likely continue through the end of the year. There's some initial projections that we might see a rate cut towards the end of the year, but that seems to be evaporating with the strong employment that we have. In terms of the budget, it's based on 1215 for FY25. We had a budget of 1225 for this fiscal year. We revised down to an actual of 1215. And you can see down below the enrollment graphic. So like the last 8 years, if you take those last 8 years, starting with the 1,194 through this fiscal year, take the average of that, we're probably about 1.5 students off of that average, which is speaks to, that consistency in terms of where we're landing today and where we think we'll be next year. So right at 1215. I'm going to go ahead and jump down to fiscal jeopardy. As you all know, we have an annual audit done currently by Holting and Company. We've had great audits the last few years. No internal control weaknesses. I think that speaks to the accounting system that we've set up and the accounting staff that we have employed, and the checks and balances between the various staff members in terms of who signs checks, who does the POs, who reconciles the bank accounts, and the ongoing monthly reporting to the Finance Committee. In terms of a multi-year plan, within the financial statements, we do have a 3-year multi-year plan. As I mentioned earlier, the legislature has telegraphed funding for FY26 that's coming in at a 377, so we built that into that model. So we have in our monthly financials, and I can go ahead and show you those columns because we hide those, but we have next year's budget and then FY26 and 27. In terms of fund balance, in FY23, we added about $1,034,000 to fund balance. So we landed at the end of the year at $3.6 million. That was about a 39% increase, and that increase was planned. In terms of revenues, for this year, estimating $15,600,000. That's about an 8% increase over the prior year total revenues. In terms of FY23, we're right there at 14.5. In terms of expenditures, in FY23, we're at 13.4. And this year we're at 15.6, but that includes an appropriations to reserves of about $1 million. In terms of the fund balance for FY25, we're currently projecting $1.5 million. That's taking into consideration the 6.83% increase in PPR, and then the limited amount of capital projects that we have for FY25. In terms of reserves, I mentioned here the last time we had the Miller and Dobson report done, that was in 2019. Reached out to Hugh. Now we have an online version that we can update as we go. And he was gracious enough to go ahead and update that as of April 30th, which I think was awesome. He turned that around in a heartbeat. Thank you, Hugh. And where does that leave us? With the $2,174,000 that we have in cash and CEC for capital, projects and replacement of systems. That puts us right there at about 70% funded because the need over the course of, say, the next 15 to 20 years is north of 3 million. And so we're actually in very, very good shape on our reserves as it relates to building needs. In terms of budget assumptions, as I mentioned earlier, state PPR for FY 25, 6.83%, based on enrollment of 1215. We did have, I would say, one of the changes other than, say, raises and other than the PPR increase, we have a benefit change. And that's going to bump up benefits. As you know, we've been evaluating this for, the last 6 months in terms of our benefits package that we're offering to staff. And that's going to bring an additional cost of probably between $200,000 and $250,000. And that's already built into the FY 25 budget. Invest our resources. That's something that we've done very well the last couple of years, especially with the advent of rates. Sam and I are working very closely to make sure that our balances in our account are kept at minimums. We're keeping like $50,000 minimums in our checking accounts, and then we're transferring in on an as-needed basis. So we're maximizing our earnings. And so that's working out very well. It's really supporting the operating budget in a very good way. Let's see here. Beginning fund balance, there's just a quick little slide there on beginning fund balance for projected next year and the last few years. Starting in FY 22 there, 2.3 million. Small increase, and then planned increase in FY 23 of about $1 million. And then this year we're projected close to 4.8. Obviously, we're starting to wind down this fiscal year, so there's probably a few accounts that won't get spent out. So it should be pretty close to that. Am I concerned with the amount that we're adding to fund balance? No, because obviously that's part and parcel to the plan that we have for the refi coming up in September of 25. Let's talk about the debt. When we went ahead and did the financing in September of 2015, we took out $19.2 million in debt with a 3.4% interest rate. So we're going to have $14 million to refi. If we bring it 3.5 to the table, we're financing just over 10. Obviously, there's going to be financing costs, but we're currently starting to develop our plan of attack there in terms of that refi. In terms of our metrics around our debt and debt covenants, minimum requirements 1.1 times on the debt service coverage ratio. That just means that we need to save at least 10% of our debt service each year. So that's coming in at least 115,000, but we've been north of that. And then 75 days of cash on hand, and finally 5% of unrestricted operating reserves. So in FY 23, so we measure it once a year at the end of the year. We had a positive DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, 1.9 times. So we definitely met that metric by a pretty good margin. And operating days of cash on hand, 128. So that's a nice margin above the 75. And our unrestricted operating reserve had a 4.12 times coverage. So yeah, we're in great shape on those fronts. And let's see here. And pretty much covers the report. The monitoring report, we're reporting compliance. Don't have any concerns. We're just beginning the process for the FY 24 audit that's scheduled, and we're beginning to prep those docs now. It's a little bit earlier than it's been in years past, but we're confident that we're going to have a successful audit. Are there any questions?
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Barb.
Just a side note, there is an appropriations resolution to consider tonight, and you have that in front of you, and I'll hang for that.
Do you need to stay for the vote on that, or?
I do not need to
Okay.
stay for the vote, but I just wanted to remind you to make sure that when you pass the resolution, when you vote and pass the resolution, that you make sure you reiterate or vocalize the numbers on the sheet.
Okay. So
Thank you.
when the vote occurs,
Yeah,
read out
just
the numbers.
you can just read the resolution
Okay.
if you want.
Perfect.
Okay,
Will do.
cool.
Thank you again. All right. Next agenda item is 6B, which is monitoring report 3B, treatment of parent and guardians. And Jen Shaver will give that monitoring report.
Thank you. There you go, my friend.
Thanks, Bart.
Bye.
All right, so treatment of parents, guardians, 3B, and thanks for allowing the flexibility to move this report to May 2nd. It really gave us the opportunity to take our annual survey that we do, which you all are getting a copy of, and it's linked into this report as well as attached for anyone who wants to access this particular data. It's just an overview of our MRA survey, which is a part of the Leader in Me program, and it's the second year we've given this survey, and they're improving their reporting metrics as well. And we're starting, as you'll know, as you go through there, you're going to see a lot of positive trends, which is really exciting. It was really uplifting to be able to share that with our staff during our March professional development days, and have them be able to react to that and kind of see some positive momentum. And then also sharing that with our school accountability committee and getting their feedback, and then also our principal advisory council for our students as well. And so we've had lots of different eyes on this particular survey, which is one measure that we use to kind of gauge how we're doing as an organization with implementing the Leader in Me framework, which really helps us to gauge the health of our organization overall. And so all three reports tonight will refer to this data. The other piece of data that you'll see in the report, and it's weird because I'm not looking at any of you, so I can change the way I'm talking over here, is that you all remember when we went through the communication survey audit data, that's referenced in these reports as well for the parents as well as for the staff. And then you'll see things about safety, protocols, policies, things like that mentioned throughout all of these reports as well. And so just know that's all kind of coming together. But you'll see those pieces. And so just wanted to have all that information. So in this report for treatment of parents and guardians, you're going to see a couple different pieces. First and foremost, that we want to recognize that our parents and guardians are the primary partner with the school as it pertains to accomplishment of school goals. We always want parents and guardians to be treated in a manner that is respectful, and make sure that they know how they can be involved in the school and that they feel welcome when they arrive. We always, no matter what stakeholder it is, we always want to make sure that people have access to express any concerns that they have, and they are welcome to take concerns to the board. We do also outline a conflict resolution process in both the parent student handbook as well as the staff handbook that kind of guides what that ideally would look like. And then to ensure in this report that we also conduct a culture survey. And so that is where the MRA comes in, as well as the communication survey that kind of supports us reaching that limitation. So as we go through here, we'll talk a little bit about how do we recognize parents as the primary partner with the school. We want to make sure that they have equal access and opportunities to be positively involved. So we engage parents through a variety of different avenues, which you can see here, lots of different opportunities. We had lots of new kindergarten families and parents here last night, and community volunteers welcoming our incoming kindergarten class with our kindergarten kickoff night, which was really cool. Our vision for that was, in January, we kind of recruit families to us and we kind of say, hey, come check us out. We really hope you decide to stay. And this event was more like, hey, thank you so much for committing to Bromley. You've enrolled, you've accepted your spot. We know you're coming and we're really excited to start building this relationship with you. And so last night, families got the opportunity to come. They got a different experience. They learned a little bit about what to expect from kindergarten. Kiddos got to play in the gym with Mr. Hines. Parents and families got to create a craft if they'd like to. We had Watchdog Dads here recruiting. We had PTO. We had information about uniforms. We had current kindergarten parents here to be able to engage. We had current eighth graders and current kindergartners as a part of the presentation to families. And so it's just really cool. And so we're trying to add in some different events. Next week, we have our 5th to 6th grade transition night, which is the first year we've been able to do that. And we've heard feedback over the last couple years about how that would be very supportive for our families to help them go from the normal elementary experience of one teacher and your kids kind of in a self-contained, a contained environment all day to the experience of middle school, which is different. And even though kiddos are in the same building, the way in which school happens it's a change, and there's a huge developmental change for kids too. So we want to support families through that. So next week we have a 5th through 6th grade transition night. And another new event that I want to highlight as well that happens tomorrow morning is our volunteer appreciation breakfast as well. And so we have about 30 volunteers who are coming tomorrow morning, which will be really exciting. And we get to take the opportunity to just thank them for their service. And that's really anyone who, whether they chaperoned a field trip or they're part of a more routine volunteer commitment, such as you all, or PTO, or Watchdogs, or parents who come and volunteer. We have a volunteer who comes regularly to our library, or they come regularly to a classroom. We know not everyone can make it, but we want to send the gesture that we really appreciate those efforts, and it takes a village to make us churn. So those are all exciting things that we've added this year. We try to keep parents informed about our policies through our student handbook that is posted on our website prior to the start of the school year, and making sure that parents are able to review that. We kind of interpret the fact that, when you enroll your student, that you agree to read that handbook and make sure that you're aware of its policies. We also like to make sure that, parents do feel welcome when they come to school. We do have a student management system, Infinite Campus, that allows families real-time access to important information such as grades and attendance. We notify families through Blackboard Connect as our parent notification system. So that's those calls and texts and emails that you get from us periodically that say do not reply. That is Blackboard Connect reaching out to you. And we always appreciate families keeping their information current on there, so we're sure to be able to reach you should we need to. We've expanded our ability to communicate with families of different languages, and we did that a little bit last year by investing in some Pocket Talk devices, which actually can convert and translate into a variety of languages. But we also have a couple different contracted services for translation and interpretation as well that we have secured and expanded our ability to use. We also have some amazing staff who provide translation services for us as well, which is super amazing. And we very much appreciate their skill set and just their commitment to the community and willingness to do that for us. And then we also try to make sure parents are well informed about upcoming events. This was noted as a strength in terms of the way in which we do communicate. We're very clear about we have lots of different activities going on, and we try to make sure people are aware of that, and that they are arriving and greeted in a professional and welcoming manner. We also make sure people are aware of the board of directors meetings, and those are also on our school calendar. In this section, we always try to make sure that parents are informed of all those different events and they are well attended. And then that they are welcomed and involved as visitors as they come into the school.
Hey, Jen, can I ask you a question real quick on that? If parents were to want to find volunteer opportunities, where would they start?
The best place to start is with your child's teacher. Yeah. And then from there, if you're looking to reach out, further to that, like if in a particular area. So once they complete the volunteer packet and the volunteer orientation, the packet asks them which areas that they're interested in volunteering in. And so that's a great way to start. But you can also contact the office as well and just say, hey, I'm looking to volunteer in this space. Do you guys have anything coming up? And we're working with PTO and have some ideas on how we might be able to reach a broader audience maybe next year. Parents do have the option to share their information. And so one idea that we're exploring is if that's the case, can we then share that, for those who've opted to share a distribution list to PTO to be able to reach out for help for specific events, because we know that, some families, they're not able to commit to a routine volunteer time in a classroom, but a one-time event for a couple hours, they might be able to do that. So and we've had a lot of parents show up. So we're really want to continue to celebrate that. And actually, when we sent out invites for our volunteer breakfast, we had over 300 invites that we were sending out to families, because we have quite a few people who are on our volunteer list, and they have to be on there to be able to chaperone for a field trip or help with a school event or come in on a regular basis. And people are in and out. And sometimes we forget all the many hands that come into play to help us out. And I think sometimes, I think on both ends, we can probably continue to improve our efforts in communicating what those opportunities are. And so we're looking for ways to broaden our outreach with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And that actually is great because it leads into this paragraph, which we do encourage volunteers by the school and the PTO, and a program we adopted this year called Watchdogs. It in case you don't know what Watchdogs is, it is dads of great students and focuses on providing positive male role models for students, demonstrating that education is important, as well as providing an extra set of eyes and ears within the school to enhance security and reduce bullying. And it's great because we have avenues for, all parents to be involved. And this also creates some community for our dads within the community who sometimes don't feel like maybe they have a dedicated space for their bonding and their involvement in school. So it's great.
I'm hoping we had a pretty good turnout last night with the incoming parents. So we're hoping we get some dads signed up. So it's been great so far.
Yeah.
Could always be better though. Could always improve.
Well, yeah, I mean, the hardest year is year one, just getting it started. And after that, it kind of picks up steam, but it was really cool to see that interest level from the community last night, and an eagerness for people to want to come and be involved with that program. So that was really cool. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do a volunteer orientation, and then volunteers are going to be celebrated tomorrow morning. So that'll be really fun. We're excited. It's the first year for that event. So, the best way to start something is just to get going. And so we'll have our launch here, and then we'll work to improve that event for years to come. So we're really excited about that. Number 5 talks about just ensuring that, parents and guardians are welcome to go to the board when internal grievance procedures have been exhausted and that the field board policy has been violated. We have no issue with parents expressing those concerns, and oftentimes they lead to great conversations. And so I'm unaware of any grievances filed with the board of directors, and a formal grievance would be of a very serious nature. We do oftentimes hear, I'm concerned about this, or I feel this way, and the process that we've always gone through is to seek to understand and then figure out where does this concern reside within the system, and then guiding people towards the best way to get their concern resolved. And so that has been the experience I've had this year, and look forward to having in the future years. And then this next section is about culture surveys. And so this is where we'll talk about the measurable results assessment as well as the communication survey. And so this is the second year that we've done the measurable results assessment through the Leader in Me program. And I'm really excited. You'll see this as we get to the student report, but you're going to see in here that we've had growth, which is really wonderful. It was really great to see that, and really neat to see that in lots of areas. We have many areas in the satisfactory level. It's most desirable to be effective. But one thing to keep in mind as you look at this data is that when we had met with our Leader in Me coach, not this year, but last year, he shared with us that the highest score he's ever seen on the survey was an 87. So, which would still be in the effective rating. So just so that you know, we're always striving to be amazing, but just throwing that caveat out there about what the reality has been for others. Just to keep that in perspective. You'll also notice in the survey that not all questions or not all areas measured by the survey were asked to all stakeholder groups. So you'll see the A is all school staff. So school staff have the opportunity to select which area that they're involved in. And so some questions were only asked to teachers, some to students, and some to families, and some to a combination of these groups. So you'll see when you look at, I think it's the chart on the first page, you'll see a key where it talks about it's A, T, S, F. And as we go through these reports, I have pulled the areas that are related to this stakeholder group. So when we go through this monitoring report, we'll talk about the areas of the survey that are related to families. And then the next one we'll talk about staff, and then the next one we'll talk about students. So you'll get all of those areas as we go through. And this survey is aligned to the Leader in Me framework and the Lighthouse rubric. And the Lighthouse rubric is like any rubric that measures the health of an organization. It looks at a variety of different areas and gives you indicators on how you're doing towards those goals.
Just a real quick question on this.
Mhm.
Culture seemed to be the area that it jumped the most for anybody who's not looking at this. Is there anything that you can pick out that you'd be like, I really think this had a huge impact on that we've done over the past year, that you've done over the past year, your team's done, whatever it is? Because, I mean, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
mean,
great.
it's great. I mean, well, one change that we had between last year and this year is, we had some really strong stabilization in staff. We really worked, which allows you to do a lot of things when you have consistency. We have strong people in the positions that we have filled right now. We also did a lot of work. This year we opened with the Power of Yet. We reinforced togetherness. We really we spent a lot of time together and facilitated plan days where we had teachers get some release time to be able to work together, work with a coach, start to bond as a team, talk about some common challenges that they have, work towards some common goals. If I were inferring why would that have gone up, I would suggest things like that, but that would probably have influenced those pieces. It's also interesting as you read these indicators too, is that it's interesting because we approach these words, school climate, as we have a context in the way in which we view that, right? We think, do the adults in the building feel good? Is a lot of the times the way educators would view that, right? Well, when we read the description under there, it says staff see the worth and potential in every student and provide the support each student needs to see their unique strengths for themselves, as well as to develop the skills necessary to pursue their potential. That's amazing. Like, that's a great descriptor, and that grew 10 points.
I think that's why it stuck out to me, because it's really behind the work that we're trying to do here on the board. So I was just like, wow, that's really cool that it grew 10 points. So just thank you.
Yeah, and I love that it's about the belief in the kids.
Exactly.
Because that's so critical, as well as feeling like that they could develop the skills necessary to pursue, their potential. So I think that's just super cool. So thanks
I have
for
a quick
putting that out.
question too. The two on the back that have a 0, does that mean that those weren't done before, or that's like, were they new questions basically? Is
Yeah.
that what that? Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, that's a great question. I mean, the growth on that is tremendous.
Yeah, I
plus
know.
75,
That's why
I
was
mean,
like-
crushing it.
It's like, yeah, okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah, no, it's like we had the same question when we saw the report too. We're like, oh, interesting. Yeah. So no, it's a great question.
And I just have a quick question. And you may not have been able to do this yet. I'm not sure if you've had the time or not, but so that's great that you're on a upward trajectory. What sort of actionable tasks have you come up with to continue that or to get into that 80, 89 effective rating?
Yeah. So you'll see this kind of as it's kind of a weird way to present all these monitoring reports because this is one piece of the 3 different monitoring reports, but it's the most fun and interesting one to talk about. So we can talk about that. We have a couple different things. So you all heard from Sarah when we talked about the communication plan and the kind of the guides that we're doing and things like that. And so all of those action steps, we took feedback from staff and students and our parent group, and we're kind of in this state of compiling all of that. Our Leader in Me coordinators met with the coach that we have from Leader in Me. They looked at the survey with John, and they kind of interpreted kind of what they thought maybe was sticking out to them from that Leader in Me perspective. All of that went to our RISE team, and they're starting to pick out, okay, so if we're going to think about our theme for next year and the one that we're kind of looking at organizing things under next year is empowerment being a theme. And the theory of action is that as we empower our students, we're going to see other areas on this survey continue to light up. Our family engagement will light up. Our advocacy with our staff will light up because as we focus on how do we get our students empowered as leaders in the classroom, it's going to challenge us to grow in different ways. And so what we've been doing is we've been looking at and trying to prioritize some different desired states that we would like to see. And what happens with work sometimes is, chasing these goals can be messy at times. There's a lot of different things attached as you start digging into new learning in an organization. You realize, oh, that system's not quite working the way I thought, or we started working on something. You're like, oh, skills are really strong here. We really don't need to spend time on this area, but we probably need to focus over here. So we're just kind of reorganizing our thinking collectively about that. And so right now we're in the process of prioritizing what is our thing next year that we're really focusing on? What's our one theme that we're going to kind of house everything under? And then what is our about 3 to 5 desired states that we really want to see happen? And from there, we're going to create some action plans around how do we get those desired states to happen? What learning needs to happen for staff and for students? What systems might need to be built? What specific action steps might we need to take to make that happen? And so what I hypothesize we're going to see is things like underneath our action steps is, okay, well, we know that our parent community wants better communication. And we know we want empowered learners, and we know parents are a part of that process. So how do we involve parents in the learning with our kids? And it started this year with ending this school year with saying, hey, we really want teachers sending out a weekly newsletter that includes kind of this kind of general information. You can do it individually or you could do it as a grade level team, but our parents want information. So let's practice that. Another thing we've heard from parents is that there's too many communication platforms. Everybody communicates in a different way. I can't figure, I got 3 kids and I've got 7 different modes of communication going on here. And so we're currently evaluating those different systems that we're using, and we're trying to consolidate our communication tools. So that's in progress. We've got our communication guides that we're ready to launch next year. So that's helpful. All of those are kind of action steps around how do we get our parents kind of invested. We're looking at how do we use tools like Google Classroom and Seesaw more effectively, all options, right? And so all things on the table that we can look at. We've been working on student leadership notebooks this year. What's our next step with those? Those are great empowerment tools for our kids. We've been working on things like how do we increase student voice and choice in the classroom? Those are great ways to get them involved, give them leadership opportunities within the classroom, and they can all be housed underneath a theme of empowerment. So we wouldn't necessarily be, what tends to happen in organizations is we compartmentalize everything. Like, oh, that's this initiative, that's this initiative, it's this. No, we have one initiative, and it's looking right now with the group that it's going to be housed under empowerment. And now, what are the 3 to 5 desired states that we want to see that are going to tell us that we're there? And then what's our action plan? And so that's what we're working on now. We have a RISE team retreat scheduled for May 29th, and they're involved in this process, where we're going to work through that, hopefully get to the point where we're ready to do the action plan. And then we'll meet with our coaches and our admin team after that, talk a little bit more about what that professional learning plan looks like for next year. So we're ready to go. And so that's kind of our flow. And really, you can slice and dice all these desired states and organize them in really whatever way you want to, but it's really getting us as an organization to agree on how do we want to approach and organize this work. So that's kind of where we're at. Well, you bet. And so as you take a look at the family portion of the survey, there were quite a few individual questions underneath these 3 categories, but you'll see that 2 of them are in the satisfactory range, and there wasn't a lot of change. They seemed to be strong. They were 76, both scored 76, and that's not quite too effective yet, but it's a strong satisfactory. So felt great on that. And then as we noted earlier, opportunities for improvement is family engagement. And this was an opportunity for improvement last year as well. So I think the strategy that we're employing, I think is going to help start to shift that number as well. And then through here, I mentioned some of the actions that we had done already. The communication guide, weekly newsletter, consolidating communication forums, and then making sure that we're looking at auditing the types of events and communications that we use to engage families as well. So, when we look at, it was interesting because I was doing this as a part of a different project, and I was looking at the ways that we ask families to come to the school and how many of those ways are really around families gaining a good understanding of what their child is learning, versus we do a lot of celebratory things, student performance things, and things like that. So that there might be some opportunity there to help kind of change what we're communicating out about Bromley and the things that are happening there. Is it balanced? Are we heavy in one area and not really touching on another? And so those are some things that we're kind of auditing right now, and to see where can we improve. But we think that focusing on student empowerment next year will also contribute to stronger performance in the area of family engagement. Because as you know, when you hit the right lever, you're going to see things improve in multiple areas within your organization. And then we, as referenced earlier, we did do the communication survey in December, and we shared out the themes listed below with families after that survey, as well as with the board as well. So we saw 5 themes pop up: inconsistent communication and responsiveness, concerns about discipline and behavior management, perceived decline in school standards and quality, lack of parental involvement and community engagement, and dissatisfaction with handling of special education needs. And so these areas, as we had discussed previously, and you've heard from other board meetings, have been a cornerstone of our work and will continue to be a focus for us as we move forward with our plans. So for this report, I report compliance. Any questions about 3B?
Any questions? Okay. All right. Thanks, Jen. Move on to 6C, which is monitoring report 3C, treatment of faculty, staff, volunteers.
All right, and so the cornerstone of this report is really to ensure that there are conditions that are clear, fair, safe, timely, dignified, and not overly intrusive. And so you'll see here some definitions in relation to that. And then we'll see once again a reference to the measurable results survey as well as the communication survey. And then just as a note, I think safety is always the number one priority. And we do ensure that all of our staff have background checks conducted for them, as well as parent volunteers get a background check through the Raptor system, and they wear an identification badge anytime that they are in the building. And then as you go through here, you'll see a very similar language as we look through the MRA survey. And then these indicators were influenced by our staff, whether it's a teacher group only or all staff. These indicators had their voice in them. And you can see that we have 4 areas in the effective level or near the effective level, because I would say 78 and 79 is like, yeah, that's great. And you can see overall that we're seeing increases of 6 points, 5 points, 4 points here. And so that's really exciting. I'm really excited to see that teachers are finding confidence in their ability to use evidence-based instructional practices to amplify students' capability to learn. That's been a focus for us as we've been working on our MTSS system and helping to, as you heard from Megan and from special programs and from John through the UIP reports, that we've been really trying to increase our ability to, what do we do with universal data? How are we ensuring all of our kids are learning? If they're not learning, what are we going to do to help them learn, and so forth? And so this is evidence that we're starting to get some clarity with that, which is really exciting. Another thing that I think, I had a teacher tell me like, hey, you should be really excited about this indicator because throughout all this change, this did not decline. And that's staff voice, and staff members believe they're positively impacting others through meaningful work and are provided with valuable opportunities to develop and grow in their work, as well as to use voice and choice in decisions that are important to them. And we always want to continue to find ways to increase that, but amongst the changes that we've been that you all have been hearing about this year, that measure stayed the same, that they're feeling pretty good about that. And I'd love to see that grow, as anybody would, but I was really proud that it also through change didn't decline. So that's exciting. Another great celebration is in school climate, as we mentioned earlier. And then you can see student goal support. So another focus area for us was our leadership notebooks and really getting those launched where students set and track goals. They talk about their celebrations, talk about who they are. They are able to lead their own parent student conference, which is really exciting. But that teachers are able to support their students in learning and applying behaviors linked to effective goal achievement. So that's exciting to see that increase into the satisfactory level. And we would hope that as we continue to focus on student empowerment, that we'll continue to see that indicator grow. And then these indicators maintained a satisfactory level. Student-led practices still performing strong at 76. School goals and collective efficacy, and catching kind of the tail end of the discussion last night at our RISE team. Our leader and me coordinators in the team have some really cool thoughts on how we can make school goals a little bit more visible and model a tracking system for that. So that's going to be really cool to see how that develops. And then this community engagement piece kind of didn't grow or didn't decline, and it was asked of all staff. And it was interesting because as I looked at the questions for this, I think it's interesting because they use the language of like community partners. And that's not language that we've used to describe any groups in our building. And so I'm not sure if this measure is related to a lack of connection with the verbiage to what's happening, or because I was like, oh, that's interesting. How do we communicate about our community partners? But as you all know, as we're working on things like developing a sponsorship package and kind of stretching out to talk about partnership with the school, I think this will become more clearly defined. And through that work, we may see this increase as well as knowledge of that hits more of our community. So in addition to the measurable results assessment, staff engaged in a communication survey, as we referred to in the last report. And these were the themes that came out of the staff survey. These were shared with staff as well in March, and they had an opportunity to kind of interact around these themes and discuss those themes collectively. So we saw staff turnover and retention as a challenge when they took the survey in December, just reflecting back on the challenges that they've had. Communication and collaboration, behavior discipline and management, professional development and support, and curriculum and academic standards. And as you know, the MRA survey was given in March. And so, that may be an indicator that some of those things are improving, which is exciting. But one thing to note is that these themes reflect a community striving to balance growth and stability while ensuring that Bex maintains its distinctiveness as a charter school with high educational standards and a supporting of learning environment. So those are not all easy plates to balance, but our staff's doing a really great job working towards some pretty amazing things. And it's been really cool to see them excited, working together, sharing ideas, and chasing some common goals. And then the rest of this is really about policy. And so we always want to make sure our staff are informed about our personnel policies. And so we do have our employee handbook reviewed by legal counsel annually and make sure it's updated with current state and federal laws. And then make sure we have essential employment policies in place. And so that was done this year by Miller Farmer Carlson Law, and they'll continue to update our employment handbook. They've already worked on it for next year. So we'll get that finalized over the summer. It is distributed electronically and is available anytime through ADP for all of our employees. And we do some training at the beginning of the year. Melissa, our human resources manager, and myself, we collaborate on that training. And this year we did a kind of a more workshop style where people were able to talk about specific policies in groups, and it was a good training. But we cover grievance policies and workplace standards and responsibilities, and lots of fun legal topics, ethical things, ethical behavior, child abuse reporting, and things like that are all covered at the beginning of year training. And so we've worked really hard over the last couple of years to get policy visible and in place. It's not historically been easy to find records of past practices with policy, as is sometimes common in charters. Staff are all evaluated informally and formally, and we work to make sure that every employee has an evaluation at the end of the year, and that we have consistency with our evaluation tools. So our teachers, administrators, and special service providers are evaluated utilizing the Colorado Department of Education rubrics. And then we're working to develop an evaluation tool for employees based on their job roles and responsibilities. And so we have many of those done, not 100%, but we're working to complete that. And then this next part talks about making sure that there's not retaliation for people taking concerns in a non-disruptive way to the board of directors. I mean, people have a right to express their opinions, and as I said earlier, that often results in great conversation, and we welcome that. And then this just talks about the collaborative problem-solving process that is in our employee benefits and personnel policies. That was renamed from the grievance process. Why? Because we view, concerns as a collaborative process to resolve. And so that process was revamped, and staff also learn a little bit each year about the role of the board and their roles and responsibilities in that problem-solving process. And so, and then we do some training with our staff as well. At this time, we don't know of any instances in which anyone has been prevented from grieving to the board. And then there's no evidence at this time of retaliation towards any staff or faculty for any sort of those types of behaviors. We always want to make sure our staff is prepared to deal with emergency situations, and we do conduct annual training each year. We follow the standard response protocol, within our schools. And we have, as you heard about a lot last year, our emergency operations plan that we had developed. And so we reviewed those protocols, and we also ensure that all of our substitute teachers in the building have access to those emergency protocols, and we have things in a red binder. It's very easy to find, that people know exactly what to do when those happen. We do have a variety of drills that we host throughout the year, and you can see a copy of our drill schedule here. There are 10 fire drills, which is called evacuation, that occur. So pretty much every single month we have one. We do 2 lockdown drills, 2 secure drills, shelter in place, 1 for hazmat and 1 for tornado each year. And so we report compliance there. And we are also excited to welcome back our school resource officer, which is also a critical part of our school safety team. So any questions on that?
All right, thank you, Jen. Let's move on to item 6D, which is monitoring report 3A, treatment of students and the public.
All right. Okay, and as you can see, there's congruency between these 3 different monitoring reports, which is why a lot of times it makes sense to report them together. There's a lot of overlap here. This talks a little bit more about, staff talked about not soliciting information that isn't necessary. We focus on that with students as well. We try to maintain exceptional data privacy standards for students, as well as, not asking for information that we don't have any reason to have. And then we make sure that we follow appropriate protocols to destroy student information in a manner that protects against improper access to that information. We're currently working on our multi-factor authentication process as well, which is, the best defense against any sort of cybersecurity issues that you may have. We want to make sure that students and the public have a clear understanding of what's expected from the school services. We want to make sure that people employ disciplinary policies that allow students maximum time in the learning environment, that they remedy root causes for students and educators' challenges in school, that make sure that our data is reported in a fair and easy to interpret manner, and that we make sure that we support our staff and community with professional development and accountability systems that make sure that we're moving in alignment towards our processes and cultural goals. We also are required to make sure we do a culture survey and that we have monthly data that shows our disciplinary trends, which you all have seen a couple times this year, and we'll refer to that in this report, that we maintain student recognition programs, as well as opportunities for kiddos to have assemblies, classroom celebrations, and other programs that encourage school spirit. So you'll hear about those tonight. And so we want to first and foremost say that, learning is best takes place in a safe, secure, and welcoming environment. And, when there will be instances in which students have challenges that do come up, and we work very hard to resolve those in a positive way, because we know that as we grow up as adults, we have conflict or things that happen, and we also have to become skilled at how we manage and navigate that as well. And so we make sure to have our policies widely communicated in our student parent handbook, which is always available online, and that parents are strongly encouraged to read the handbook. We're working on that for next school year as well, to just make sure that all those, there may be some changes to that as we may make that a little more robust for next year. That's a project that we're working on right now. But very important to note that within that handbook is a conflict resolution process as well for parents to refer to. You'll also see reference to the student indicators on the measurable results survey. And then we do require annual training on the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act, known as FERPA, sexual harassment, and then mandatory child abuse reporting. And we are a mandatory reporter for that. So if there's any concern regarding that, it's never our job to investigate. It's really just our job to inform. And so we turn that over to the proper authorities if there's ever a concern. We ensure that our employees have background checks conducted and that school volunteers complete their background check in the Raptor system. We make sure students are well aware of emergency protocols, which you saw in the last report. We have quite a few opportunities for students to engage in practicing those, because practice gives us the opportunity to check for understanding, make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're doing a great job with those, which we do. Students do a fantastic job. We also partner with Safe to Tell, which is an anonymous reporting system for students or any community member to report a concern. We don't know the identity of the person reporting, but we do take those concerns very seriously. We did receive 12 concerns so far this school year, and each one of those was investigated following the protocol that would relate to the concern, and then we work to resolve those issues as we can. And then we make sure that our staff have two-way radios for communication to make sure that we are able to call for help should we need to. And then we also can bridge those radios. Another addition that will be coming next year is there's a special orange button radio that can talk to the district without any Wi-Fi. So we learned about that this year. And we'll be having some of those next year, which is great. And then we also will continue with our school resource officer. We have a variety of cameras around our building, and we work to maintain those as well. And then we have key card entry. You noticed that on the exterior of the building. And this school year, we had key cards installed in kind of high traffic communal areas. Our office, our staff lounge, workrooms, custodial closets, some places like that would really benefit from key card access. We added those in this year as well. And so we want to make sure that we're not soliciting information that we don't need from students. And so we follow that protocol at the beginning of the year. Should surveys be conducted with students, they should serve an educational purpose or a purpose. A lot of times teachers ask for feedback. How'd the lesson go today? Or, hey, I want to learn more about your students. What's your favorite color? Or what kinds of interests do you have? Those are all normal types of things. But should there be a more significant survey that somebody would wish to give students, we look to approve that prior to that happening. And then we make sure that our student information is disposed of in an appropriate manner. And so that's all maintained in Infinite Campus, and only actually guardians of students are allowed to see that information within the system. And then as we go down, this talks about the student and parent handbook, which is linked in here for reference. It's also on our website. We make sure that families of students with special education services are provided with the rights and responsibilities document and following appropriate protocols for notification there. All right, and then making sure that this talks about the systems to manage students, as well as making sure that people are moving towards a positive direction for student culture and management. And you all have heard quite a bit about that this year and the work that we've been doing, but we're still working on developing those universal practices to establish and maintain positive school and classroom environments. And we've done training with our staff around that. And one of the key components that you've heard a couple of times tonight is really having a strong social emotional character development program. And we use our Leader in Me curriculum as that strong foundation for our students. And that does engage them in the 7 habits of highly effective people. All of our new teachers to BEX were trained in the 7 habits as a part of their onboarding process. And we held professional development this year all throughout the year, as we did last year, to support staff with reaching the goals. And this year's focus was really around the 4 disciplines of execution and implementing leadership notebooks for staff and students. And then we focus on our core values and positive behaviors through positive postcards, the BEX Bookstore, which is always a huge hit on Fridays, and our SOAR Student of the Month pictures, which I know many of you have enjoyed seeing on our Facebook page. It's always fun to see the kiddos get excited and take those group pictures together and be recognized for living out our core values. We make sure that we have policies and problem-solving procedures updated annually in the Parent-Student Handbook. And then we work with 27J should there be any need to discuss expulsion. So far this school year, we've had no expulsion hearings or conversations so far. So that's always positive. Let's see. And then that's kind of wraps that one up. And then this talks a little bit about the student culture survey that we did. We had 321 kiddos complete the survey, which was very similar to how many completed it last year. And then you'll see, which I'm really excited about this because last year when we worked with our principal advisory council, they identified 2 key areas that they wanted to see improved. And it's super cool to see on the survey that happened. So they focused on trusting relationships and making sure students have a high trust relationship with at least one teacher they feel comfortable with and can connect to. And that moved from the improvement category to satisfactory this school year, growing 6 points. And then social support is a new title, same description, but that grew 6 points this year, where students have 1 or more teachers who provide them with the encouragement and support they need to lead their learning. So we also know, focusing on student empowerment, we're going to see those maintain or grow next school year, which will be really exciting. And then 10 out of the 12 sub-indicators below had improvement from the previous year, which is a great celebration. And the one that did not grow declined by 1 point, but remained really strong in the satisfactory category. So that's also really cool to see. And so you can see here, we've had various levels of growth, but I was really excited to see positive well-being grow by 7 points, that students regularly engage in activities that promote their well-being, including actions that benefit their heart, mind, and body. That makes me happy to feel like kids are getting their needs met in that way. We talked a little bit about trusting relationships, but look at the growth in school belonging. 6 points, students believe they're cared about and understood by the people in their school. And that's great to see that as well. The opportunities for improvement, this was really great data to see. And so the Leader in Me coordinators, as they worked with John and our Leader in Me coach, set a goal to reach 80 points in the student empowerment category, which would move us from satisfactory to effective. So I'll be excited to report back next year how we did with that. And then you can see here on the Beck's data landing page that you've seen before, that we do have behavior data readily available that gets updated each month to kind of take a look at how that's going. And you can see kind of where we are presently for, let's see, this year. And looks like we just have to update April, but you can kind of see how we're tracking with the number of incidents. And so, some years sometimes we see a spike, and we certainly did here during this time. But in the other months, we also saw some good decline here too. And that's just kind of just general information. It's not the only data point you want to pay attention to. There's lots of data that influences these numbers, but just information. And we have that readily available and have shared that routinely with the board. So just pointing that out. We make sure to celebrate our kiddos through recognition programs, and these are the dates that we had student award ceremonies for grades 3 through 8. And then we have really excited and always a fun time is kindergarten graduation coming up and 8th grade continuation. And then through this list, you'll see that we do a lot to ensure that we have student assemblies, classroom celebrations, and other programs that promote and encourage school spirit, community, and camaraderie. And you'll see our list here of all the events that we host throughout the year that support that. I'm sure there are others that I missed, but those were some good highlights there. We encourage kids through our Beck's Bucks drawings, positive office referrals, and SOAR awards that happen routinely throughout the year. Athletics are going great. We have great, strong participation in those programs. And then Booster Bash that the PTO sponsored this year was really, really fun and a great community building event to open the school year. And so we're excited to bring that back in September 20th is going to be our celebratory day for that. And so that was a huge amount of fun. So I would highly encourage anybody who wants to volunteer to support that event, it's a super happy day. Bring your sunscreen and your good tennis shoes and a hat. But it was fun. So for this, I report compliance. And what questions might you have?
All right, thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. Before we move on, question that we always ask at the end of each monitoring report cycle for each month. Did we receive the information that we needed in these monitoring reports? Is there anything that we need in addition to this information or that we need changed? The help with the survey data was helpful. Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, let's move on to, say again?
No, I said I'm thinking okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like, whoop.
Mhm.
No worries. Let's move on to item 7 on our agenda, governance process supporting global objectives. Do you want to give an update on Finance Committee?
And Jen, feel free to chime in at any time with this. So this is our finance meeting, which was last Monday, I believe. So pretty standard stuff for the most part. So reviewing the financial statements, check register, make sure everything falls in line there, as well as kind of combing through the financial statement all the way up through March of 2024. So just some of the highlights there. Everything's tracking as expected. Interest earnings averaging around 17K per month, and in the general fund, and then 12K for CEC. All this you guys have heard from Bart probably repeatedly as well. So cash remains strong with 4.9 million for the school and 2.3 in CEC. As he mentioned, those are all gearing up towards that refi coming September 2025, and then CEC more so for those capital improvement projects that are kind of laid out by Hugh and Jen, or Director Shaver. Preliminary budget for 24-25. We talked through some staffing. And Jen, I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, but no big changes really there as far as what you guys heard last month to this month.
No, in terms of the staffing plan,
Mhm.
not a lot of change. If there's any staff watching, I promise your formal agreements are coming next week. I just worked that out today, and as long as the board is cool with and approves the resolution for tonight for the budget, then we're all formally ready to roll on that. So contracts are coming out. The plan is next week. Late next week, Thursday is the ideal day, not Monday.
Perfect. Thank you. And then the rest of the stuff is just kind of stuff that it stays on the agenda as we kind of go, just in case there's any updates. So, but bell paging system project, no update. Everything's kind of in place there. Smart lab, same thing. Next steps are planned for when school completes. Cyber insurance, I don't think there was any update there. And then building update, obviously Hugh and his team are gearing up for summertime when all of their magic happens around this place with grounds beautification, painting, and some repair work just around the building. So did I miss anything, Jen?
No, that's all. Sounds good to me.
Perfect. We did, and the other thing that's not on here, I guess we did look at that refi coming up in 2025 and just kind of some scenarios on cash that's going to go down and what that looks like on different interest rates. So I have a lot of trust in Bart. He's on top of that. So, any questions?
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Mhm.
We'll move on to 7B, just a couple of items, board calendar. Wanted to check with everybody on the retreat, vacation schedules for summer and when we wanted to do our retreat. So we can get that kind of on the books and scheduled.
And that's July, right?
Depending on schedules, we've done June or July, depending on what vacation schedules people have. Okay.
I'm pretty flexible for either or at this time.
And either or.
Hmm.
Okay. Jen?
I can't do the 24th of July.
Okay.
So that week.
Okay. And Darnell, I know that you're listening in. What's your schedule like?
So actually very similar to Jen. I just can't do the last week of July, but everything else is pretty open.
And then when, okay, great. Jen, when do you and admin team come back?
So I'm here all the time. And so I'm ready when you are, but I get back from vacation on July 6th. So anytime after July 6th would be great. And then ideally our admin team usually comes back around July 17th to 19th. And when that happens, we hit the ground running pretty hard with lots of different things. And so it would be lovely to do it kind of before then, if possible. But if not, we last year we found a date that worked well for everybody as well between July and August that we were able to work that out. So I can also be flexible as well.
Okay, so it's a 1 day, all day. Yep.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking like the 11th, 12th, towards the end of the week. Yeah. For me, it's beginning or end of week. Middle of week is no good. About the 11th.
Thursdays are my favorite day.
Thursday, the 11th. Going once.
So are we going 7-Eleven?
7-Eleven.
Oh,
Get your free Slurpees.
I was gonna say, are we gonna open the day with some Slurpees? A field trip?
Darnell, does that day work for you?
What day did you say again?
Thursday, July 11th.
Let me check my calendar real quick. Yeah, actually that should work. July 11th. It's pretty clear for me right now.
All right, perfect. All right, we will meet Thursday, July 11th. Details TBD. Okay, we will move on to the next calendar item. I think, Jen, you wanted to show the 24-25 board calendar.
Sure. Let me just pull that up real quick. And this is just a proposed calendar, so we can update maybe the retreat to be on right now, the 11th of July. For whatever reason, that's updated. I don't know why it's doing that. That's weird. I'll fix that later. Okay, so this was just reiterating that, the board meetings will continue on the first Thursday of each month. And then in this calendar also, just added in some events that the board might consider attending next school year. As you all talked about, kind of wanting to have a little bit more presence and connection with the community. We included some of those events on here. Talked about maybe switching board linkage to earlier in the school year. So a date for September could be something that we look at. We can look at this at our retreat in July, but if there's a date that you all wanted to kind of nail down now, we can certainly pencil that in, as we're also kind of doing our 24-25 calendar of events right now. And we can take a look at that. Or do you want to do a placeholder, or do you want to just pause on that and discuss it a little later?
So you're referring to board linkage?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be where we conduct our surveys, I guess, with students and staff. And
Is that how we're still doing that though, based on our retreat from February? Didn't we discuss doing surveys for those and then meeting on a regular cadence, like bagels with the board, those sorts of things to provide that, because we weren't getting great turnout?
Sorry, because we weren't getting great turnout of those. So I thought that we were going to switch the process.
I don't know that we totally ironed out exactly how we were going to go forward, but I think Jen is correct that we talked about moving the dates.
Well, yeah, it was going to be
The-
September, not October.
Yeah.
And then the
um,
other one was going to be April, not like February, March, because there was a lot of other
There was, yeah.
surveys, testing, general busyness of life. So I think it was going to be September and April, in
Mhm.
which case then it would be reported out in May. So beginning of the year would be October, November report out, end of year would be May.
Would be May.
And then the connection that we were talking about was having more, which is one of the things I want to see if you guys want to put on here now or think about it, but was those touch points throughout the year. And I think we had decided we were going back and forth between, do we do that monthly offering? And then it was like, that might be too much. So then do we do a quarterly with those groups? Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. It wasn't quarterly. It was trimester. Sorry, I used the wrong terminology.
I think, Jen, if you can put just a placeholder so we can flesh it out at the retreat,
Sure.
That's what I was gonna say.
that might be best. And then I think most of us by July
We'll
will
know what our
have better
schedules.
visibility of our calendars then.
Mhm.
And if it's okay with you, Jen, it might be easier to firm it up that way.
Sure. And I'll go ahead and highlight anything on here that's not yet confirmed. And so then that way we know we'll kind of talk about those pieces, and then anything that's not highlighted, you could kind of count on, and we'll put that on our calendar for the school
Sure.
so that people kind of know that those are for sure yeses. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
And,
you bet.
and then the other thing that we can either discuss now or later, but that should probably go on here that we can plan out, are just those teacher staff events.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about doing one in the beginning of the year, or the first half of the year, I should say, not beginning, the first half of the year, and one the second half of the year. And so maybe just trying to plan those out in advance. I'm not saying exactly what, but just when we want to do those so that we can then work with Michelle to get that set up. We can get the invite out to staff to sign up, and then we can also kind of plan for that as well. So that was the other piece that came out of our February retreat as well. And those were the fun events, like Mark, you'd mentioned the paint, sip and, what was it?
Oh,
Sip
the
and
one we
paint.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. We tried to put together one for April, but just couldn't get that to happen for this year. But I think if we can plan ahead for next year, we can do two. Then that kind of goes, it at least aligns with what we were talking about in February at our retreat,
Yeah.
with all of the kind of touch points that we want to start putting in there in communication pieces.
I mean, I think again, if we could kind of nail down
Yeah.
the dates at the retreat, but I don't know, Jen, your idea. I like the idea of doing fun events before a break, to send everybody off, hopefully doing something fun.
That's a
But
good idea.
maybe if we could kind of flesh it out, in July. Mm, mhm.
My only concern would be we get not as good of a turnout because everybody's just kind of ready to check out, kind of thing. And I get it. I totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yep.
that's a good idea. Anything else on your list?
I don't think so. Just really just trying to use this calendar to kind of create that awareness as you all are planning your calendars, and
Yeah.
kind of wanted to highlight just some opportunities for connection, and then at least within the school community that you may want to plan on. And then this portion down here just helps organize all of our work. I started this from just myself to organize what might happen during the ED informal reports, monitoring reports, work session kind of ideas of when we can talk about different topics, and then what might happen for different sections of board governance, because there's things that we count on every year that we need to make sure that we do. So just tried to block in some thoughts here, but you all are welcome to. More brains are always better. So there's probably something I missed. So feel free to add those thoughts in, or if there's a particular program, this is just kind of copied over from what has happened in the past that you might want to hear from or learn more about. I'd love to have that conversation because with enough notice, we can kind of find a great place for that to fit alongside the most appropriate monitoring report or just a good time of the year that you might want to learn about a particular part of the school. And so these are just some initial thoughts on what we might have featured in the informal ED report. And then we just kind of have adjusted those this year. But it sounds like that went really well and you all enjoyed being able to hear from some different voices within the community. So I'd love to keep that going.
Perfect. Anything else that you guys at this time, and you can always go back to it, obviously, but anything else you want to talk about related to adding events or items needed on this calendar? And it's there in the future as well, if not tonight.
Okay.
The only thing, I don't know if it's this calendar or the last calendar, is our recruitment efforts and kind of when we want to open up that piece.
Yeah, so typically I think we've done that at the end of the year. This year's been a little,
And
Yeah,
we
this
kind
year's
of
been a little
talked. We
different.
kind of talked about last meeting of. I think I'm not on mute. Of not doing it right now, just because parents are very busy trying to get to the end of the year. So, with the open seat, I think we could either hold off until the end of next year, or we could start at the beginning of the year. And see, yeah,
I think that's when you get the most
interest.
enthusiasm. Mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, I like that. Maybe September.
If we do that, do we need to just look at redoing how we seat then and change the seating from the beginning of the year on?
I mean, I don't think we have to change anything there necessarily because we can appoint at any time per our
Okay.
bylaws. So that's not restricting us in any way. And so, I don't think you formally have to do that
That-
because you could do that at any point.
At any point?
Yeah.
So traditionally,
flexibility
the
there.
reason or the way that it was all lined up in March was so that you could do your interviews, have somebody voted in by May, and then with board officer elections being in May as well, then as they start their term in July, officially, they would actually have an opportunity to hold a officer position for that following year, rather
yeah.
than having to wait the entire year.
Although
So,
most haven't done that because they're new to board.
I was
board
treasurer.
policy. I know
my
you were.
very
I think
first
you're the only
year.
one. I think you're the only one. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
I know
No,
that
was
you
just-
did that.
That was
because,
the reasoning
because you had to.
why the timing
but-
was the way it was. So
Well, depending on how many board members are seated too.
Right.
So-
Yeah.
Yep.
I think for this one, we'll definitely start the recruitment and we can talk about it at the retreat, but how we want it to lay out at the beginning of the year. And I think that's probably a better time
I agree.
to engage parents and closer to the end of the year.
I agree.
So we can definitely set those dates, but I would think that in the very first parent newsletter,
Mhm.
we get, the application links and stuff out. So I can work with Michelle on when that would come out and stuff in
Okay.
August.
Is just a curious question because the board can range anywhere per the bylaws from 5 to 9 members and you have 6 and we have a community member, which is a requirement to have that. Is the board satisfied with the cohesiveness of the group and the direction and the clarity that we've seen? Is there I'm just curious, not that, I mean, more perspectives are great, but the bylaws do say you can operate with a range of numbers of board members. And so just curious, how you guys feel as a group about, do you feel the need to go up to 9? Are you wanting to go to 7 or 8 or
So the
what's the
minimum
goal?
is 5 that we can operate with. The maximum is 9, just for information purposes.
Right.
Yeah, I think personally, my preference is 7. I don't like even numbers, just so the votes won't ever shake out as a tie. Just in my personal opinion, 9's too many. I think 7's a sweet spot.
We've worked with 9 before, and that's been a lot.
It's a lot
So-
of, yeah. Mhm.
And so you may get a different answer from each person on this, because my opinion would be, if you had great applicants and, great people that would add value to your board, I would say, why limit yourself to 7? But if you don't get the turnout, yes, I like 7 more than 8, or an even number, 7 more than 6, for those voting purposes. So that's just my thought.
I would say, just from past experience, definitely an odd number we need. I think we all agree on that. And then we've tried 9, and that was difficult, I think, at best, just not only with coordinating schedules, but just all of the things that came with that. So I would be more inclined to split the difference and go 7, just based on what we've learned from the 27J meetings with other board members and whatnot, and their composition and what they have. Eagle Ridge has talked to us about 5. I think that might be a little too little. 9 seems like a lot. And so my opinion on that would just be split the difference and do 7, but odd number as well.
Mhm.
Any other conversation on that? Okay. One second. Let me just. Okay. One quick second. Just let me pull this other document. All right. 24-25 monitoring report schedule. Do we want to take a look at that? You want to do it at the retreat?
Yeah, I was gonna say, typically that's a retreat.
I will say I liked how it flowed, but yes, let's have a more in-depth conversation at the retreat. But I had no issues with how it flowed.
Okay. And I think one of the changes on there would be what we just went through with these 3.
Yeah,
Changing that so that they're later in the year, so we have more data.
I liked
that
these
made more
at the
sense.
end. These make sense to me at the end.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's great. That's what's drafted in here for those monitoring reports. And so this kind of flows the way we did it this year. And so if you guys like that, we can certainly adjust the monitoring report schedule that we went into the school year with to just kind of make those tweaks, and then we can run it again and see how we like that.
Perfect. Darnell, I want to make sure that I'm giving you an opportunity to speak. Feel free to come off anytime that you have anything to say, but just want to open up the floor to you if you had any comments on any of what we've just been discussing.
Yeah, no comments, but thanks for checking.
All right, perfect. Okay, let's move on to action items. The first item up for vote with discussion first would be 8A, vote to approve the ED compensation. Is there any discussion regarding that before we vote?
No.
Darnell?
Nothing here.
All right, thank you. That's okay. All right, is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah.
There we go. Director Saldivar will vote to approve the compensation for Executive Director Shaver as negotiated in executive session.
Director Stickle will second.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to action item 8B, vote to approve the FY25 budget resolution. I'm going to read
Maybe
this.
this one. Okay.
Oh, hold,
Oh.
wait, I got to read it into the record.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, you can get there. Let me just read this into the record. The appropriating resolution for FY 2024-25 fund expenditure budgets. Be it resolved by the Bromley East Charter School Board in Adams County that the amounts shown in the following schedule be appropriated to each fund as specified in the original budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. General fund grants sub-budget, or I'm sorry, general fund 16,184,877. Grants sub-budget 236,950. Total general fund 16,421,827. Pupil activity fund 180,100. Building fund CEC 1,276,342. Total appropriation is 17,878,269. And then this would be signed as of today, May 2nd, 2024, by the board president and the board treasurer. Please keep in mind this budget contemplates reservations of fund balance of $3,872,000 for long-term contracts, TABOR, special education, and building reserves, so that the ending unreserved fund balance is less than 15% of annual operating expenditures or less than $2,463,250. Is there a motion on the floor?
Director Stickle approves the fiscal year 2025 budget as presented by Chief Financial Officer Bart Skidmore.
Director Pensack seconds.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, on to action item 8C, board officer elections. We'll have discussion on board officer elections before voting, per the usual.
Do we need to
Process.
vote CC and I back in?
Well, we're going to go through, so the process would be we'll go through each, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I think I know. We'll go through each position, and then anybody who's interested in that position will throw their hat into the ring, and then there'll be discussion and then a vote.
But CC and I's terms are
Your
up.
terms are up.
Yeah, both of us. So don't we
Uh,
have to re-put us on and then do that?
We can't do that now because I don't think we can do that under board officer elections. I need to do a special meeting. I didn't realize you guys' terms were up.
Yeah, we're cooked.
Yeah, I didn't know that. For some reason, I just always think that you're like the same term as
No,
Darnell and I.
we're
Yeah.
you're behind.
Okay, so we'll just do a quick virtual meeting, 5 minutes to do that. Yeah, sorry. I did not know what you were talking about.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
I think you can. I don't think that you could not be, because what would happen is that if you were voted in as an officer and you were not reelected to the board, then that officer position would just be open. It would just be vacant. So I don't think that that has any bearing on, yeah. Okay. First, hold on. First, position up for discussion. Anybody who is interested in the board president role, please feel free to take the floor. Throw your hat in the ring.
So as I said last year, I am going to relinquish treasurer, the role of treasurer, after my 5th year. It's been exciting. It's been fun. It's been a lot of numbers. So, and with that, going into my 6th year, I do want to throw my name in the hat as our board president. So I will throw it out there. And it does not mean that I believe we are not in a good direction. I appreciate everything that you've done so far. Like I said, just being in my 6th year, just ready for a new challenge other than treasurer.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else like to throw their hat into that ring?
Darnell O'Hare here. So, geez, Mark, I didn't know that I would be putting my hat up against you.
Good luck. It's a friendly, it's not,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'll throw my hat in there. I'm happy in my role as the policy manager. Definitely want to take it, the next direction this year, focusing kind of redoing a lot of those policies if I stay in this role, but putting my hat in there as a president too.
All right, thank you.
That's awesome, Darnell.
Anyone else want to put their name in that? I am not. All right, take it up for a vote. I'll make a motion to,
Remind me real quick, are we allowed to vote for ourselves or not? I forget how
you
that
should,
works.
I believe Bill has said that you should not vote for yourself.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to have,
Do you have a question?
Before we vote, can we ask questions at all, or can we
it's discussion, absolutely.
Okay, do we do that now or wait until?
No, you need to do it now
Now,
before the
okay.
vote.
Okay. I guess I just kind of want to know why you would want to do this. What would be the motivation for both of you? Why are you thinking about this? What's your number one reasoning?
Darnell, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. So that's, Maris, that's a good question. I think my purpose in wanting to be the board president is just the challenge that comes with being a board president, the organization that comes with being the board president, motivation of current board members and enticing other people to come sit on the board. I think it's good to have change. I think it's important to have continuity. I see Mark as somebody that's been on this board for a long time, so he'd fit that role with continuity very well. And so that's, another direction that I see just for myself is the continuity piece. And yeah, definitely the challenge. So the floor is now Mark's.
Thank you. Some of the same things, continuity, obviously being in my 6th year and being treasurer for 5 of those, it's a new challenge for me. I think we've laid a great foundation in the past, 2 years, really, as with all the training we've kind of gone through, putting the pieces back in place that maybe had fallen a little bit. So continuing to work on that, and then also continuing the work of community and kind of bringing everything back together with some of the, whatever it may be with the different groups or clubs or organizations, and just making sure that we're all, in this for the right reasons and the same reasons, and that our students are successful. For me, that's what it's always been about. It's always been about the kids. I have a passion for this stuff, and I'm a glutton for punishment, apparently. But no, I realize the work that comes with this. I don't take it lightly. And I think, like I said, just over the past 6 years and learning a lot about board processes, policy, all that kind of good stuff. I feel like it's just time to take that next step and just help take our board and everything kind of to that next level.
Can I ask another one? My reasoning is probably of everyone here, I know everyone the least, so that's why I'm asking.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what do you think is your best skill that you would bring to being in this position?
So, sorry, Darnell, I just jumped in. For me, I believe I believe I'm able to look at things through a different lens and take a step back. I like to think for the most part, I have a pretty calm demeanor. I'm able to mediate a lot of problems and kind of bring people together when emotions are running high. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm passionate and mine can do that as well. But I try to just take a step back and look at it not only from my perspective, but also from everybody else's perspective, right? That's what it means to be here for all the kids, all the parents, is sometimes you got to look at it very unbiasedly in order to get to where you need to be, right? And so I think for me, that's what I believe is my biggest attribute that would make me successful in this role.
Thank you.
I'll let Darnell
Yeah,
answer.
please.
Go ahead, Darnell.
Okay, so I think this, there's so many skills that are required for this. I mean, Mark spoke, very direct as to what is, sometimes you got to take a step back. You have to remember that it's, about the entire school and the school progressing forward. And, you've got to be an idea generator. Sometimes you have to play the devil's advocate. Sometimes, you have to have really good communication skills with parents, teachers. You have to be likable. I mean, all those skills are skills that Mark brings to the table very well. And I believe I bring to the table very well. So I know that I'm not in the school every day, especially now that I don't have a child that goes there, but I think I've, maintained a lot of great relationships, even though I'm not in the school every day. So I think those are important skills that you bring to the table as the president.
I have a question.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I think it's great that we have two very qualified people that want this position. Should you not get the position, what other officer roles, or is there another officer role that does interest you?
So if I were not to get this role, I would probably go for vice president.
Darnell.
Well, I would probably still be interested in my current role. So if I didn't get it, I would probably throw my hat in there for the policy manager again. But ideally, I don't know that I want to necessarily give up the policy manager, because I haven't really taken it the direction that I think we intended it to when the position was created a couple of years ago, in managing and monitoring those policies to make sure that they're up to date pretty consistently. I think, the policy manager and the president will work more closely together in ensuring that those policies kind of get ironed out. And so if Mark were to get this position, then I would work very close, much in the way that I've worked with Therese. So if I didn't get it, I would probably stay as policy manager. I don't know that I would throw my hat in for anything else.
Do you have another?
I had a comment, not a question. So if anybody else, I do want to say before we vote, thank you so much for everything. Being the president is not easy. So I just wanted to make sure that I told you thank you for all of your help and guidance. So
Absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
think it goes for sure.
Mhm.
But like I said, we've made a lot of progress
Totally
over the
think so.
past couple of years, and so thank you.
Any other comments or questions or discussion?
I will just ask, what happens in the event of a tie?
There won't be a tie because one person there's only 5 people voting.
Well, but neither one of them really can vote against, right? So there's only 4 of us
'Cause
actively
you said
voting
we
for
can't
this.
vote for ourselves.
Right, but it's not a ballot. There's no ballot. So there's 5 people voting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Gotcha.
So-
But if Darnell and I both abstain, I guess
There's one motion per
I-
time. You have to do,
so
one
I'll
motion
vote
at a
on
time.
hers, and then she'll vote on mine. So that's where the 5 come from.
there's only one motion. Unless
Okay.
that motion doesn't carry.
Gotcha.
oh,
I think
I think I get it.
Doesn't matter. It's whoever. All right, I'm in a motion for Darnell to be president. Is there a second?
Director Stickle will second.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
So then it carried, right?
It's majority. Motion carries.
There's only 3 yeas. That's not a majority out of 6.
It's out of, it's not out of 6 though. It's out of 5, isn't it?
It's out of the total board members in attendance.
It's out of the total board members.
Okay. Is there, so 2 abstains, 1, 2, 3. So there can't be, Well-
I think there's going to be a tie.
yeah. So is there another motion on the floor? Is there a second motion or a different motion? I mean, we've done this before with other, where we just have to keep motioning.
Director Stickle will make a motion to nominate Mark Saldivar as president.
Motion does not carry.
Is it possible, Darnell, you would know more as our bylaws person, to table the president discussion or the president vote until the retreat and give everybody more time, since we do have 2 qualified candidates, or do we have to seat it tonight?
I think we should seat it tonight.
Is there anything in the
Yeah.
So there's nothing in the bylaws, but if Therese steps down today, effective today, then the vice president takes the role until
Well,
the vote.
It's not effective today. It goes, as all of our board positions go, until June 30th, with new positions starting July 1. So I'm in that role until the end, as we all are, until June 30th.
Well, yes, correct. All I'm saying is if you step down, if you were to effective step down today, then the vice president would take the role. Otherwise, you stay in the position until a new president is voted in.
Got it. Okay.
Don't you dare.
I still have, there's stuff I got to do, so. Any additional motions?
Is there anything in our bylaws? Sometimes presidents carried 2 votes, or that's how we break the tie. We don't have that.
No, and I think that enters dangerous territory. 1 vote, 1 person. Any additional motions?
I'll just say in the past, I don't know if any of you guys were here. We had the situation, and so when both motions did not carry, it went to basically a ballot vote for everybody. And
So that's against our bylaws. We're not allowed to do a ballot or secret
Okay.
ballot.
I was just
Is that, confirm that for me, Darnell? Just make sure. I remember when that happened. I was like, ooh, we're not supposed to do that. Everything has to
Sure.
be.
I was purely just
Yeah,
giving
yeah, I know.
history.
Just to confirm, we need 4 yays for it to carry out of
Correct.
6 people.
Right.
Shall we move on to other roles?
Let's do that.
Okay. Vice President, anybody who wants to put their hat in the bucket for Vice President, please do so at this time. We'll have any discussion that's needed, answer any questions.
I mean, I will stay, but I was going to go for the treasurer role, so you just let me know.
I think you should go for whichever role you want, and then we will figure out vacant positions at the end.
So are you going for VP or treasurer?
Treasurer.
Okay. So how about we start there?
So I just want to read from the bylaws. It does, we don't have to do it tonight. We just have to have it completed prior to June 1st.
Okay.
June 1st or July 1st?
June 1st,
Okay.
and that's so that the newly elected officers may begin their duties in preparation for the regular July meeting or the board's annual training retreat in July.
Because that person plans that.
So maybe we can vote when we reinstate CC&I. We could also
Yeah.
do that role.
Is that, my question is that really going to change the votes right now?
I think it might give people a little more time to process.
Very close.
Okay.
I honestly. So
Okay.
I think I could be swayed with time and processing.
And a little campaigning by the two. I mean,
Well, and that's what I was going to get to, but we're, a reminder, Darnell, check me, reminder, we cannot discuss our votes for future actions or anything like that. So just want to
Right.
remind that as a friendly reminder to the board, no discussion of voting or how you're going to vote or things like that. That would be against our bylaws.
yes, thank
Okay.
you.
No problem. Okay, treasurer, any discussion? Anybody else wants to do treasurer role?
Oh, okay.
I was nominated for this.
Yeah.
Crazy things
Should I
happen.
nominate you for treasurer?
You can. I think it's pretty clear
I
that I would be willing to do it.
Any additional discussion on that?
I know there's no way I want that one.
Okay, we have Jen Stickle who's put her name into the hat. Is there a motion on the floor?
Director Saldivar will make a motion to nominate Director Stickle as board treasurer for the 24-25 year.
Director Pinsack seconds. Yeah.
Voting is open.
Did you get it, Darnell? I haven't got, did mine? Okay.
I did not get it. Oh,
Okay.
no, I did.
Okay.
Hold on, let me. Okay, did it come through this time?
No.
Not yet.
No, her vote's still not coming through.
Your vote has not come through yet.
Can you mark me as yay?
5 days, 1 abstention.
Motion carries.
Thanks,
Ah.
everybody.
Welcome to the treasurer role for the next 5 years.
Unless you kick me off the board in 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right, let's do secretary. Anybody who'd like to put their name into the hat for secretary, please do so at this time.
I love you too.
CC,
I think we're all good with that.
Good for you.
any
Sure you're doing
discussion?
Sure.
Any discussion? I think you're doing a great job. For
You're
real.
on it.
Any discussion on that before we move to a vote?
No.
Right, I'll motion to elect CC I'll motion for CC to continue in the secretary position for the 24-25 school year.
Pensac seconds.
Oh, no, it's not. Just kidding. Now it's open.
We may have to rethink this.
One
No,
more
I'm
mouse
just kidding.
click. Still looking under the bell.
It's still not showing up for me?
No.
No.
This is so weird. It gives me the you voted and everything. The vote me as yay, please.
5 yeas, 1 abstain.
Motion
Motion carries.
carries.
Congratulations, Cece.
Thank you, Cece.
Yes, thank you.
So we've got
I think we should take the
Just
others.
table.
Yeah. Cece,
Okay.
do you need me
No,
to
no,
make a
no, no,
motion to table the others?
Yes.
Who would like to, say that again?
Well, I didn't know for the others because that might be impacted. So do we need a motion to table them until the special meeting before June 1st?
So it's up to the group how you'd like to vote on those.
I'd rather table it because if one pans out a different way, that affects the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And, we might have better brains not at 10:05
Sure.
and having
And
food.
when you eat.
I'm good. I'm just tired.
Yeah, I'm good with that. 'cause
Yeah,
I
let's
think we
table it.
all
Okay.
So,
are
So we
make a
will,
motion to table president, vice president, and
Well-
policy.
And policy.
well, we can't motion for that action because it's not on the agenda already. So we just won't
just
be able
won't
to
vote.
vote on them.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that I think anyone would get super upset if we made a motion for that, but we'll
Yeah.
play by the rules.
Yes.
Always. And then, does anybody, Jen just mentioned this, so does anybody want to know kind of anything about the president role or anything like that, you guys need to know about what that looks like or anything like that? Let me know. All right. So I think that'll conclude our actions for tonight then, correct? Before I move on to the next agenda item.
Yes.
Okay. Any new business?
Do we want to throw out dates for this meeting now, or do you want
That
to
would, yeah, that would be
Mhm.
great. So we can just get it scheduled.
Yeah.
And I don't think, well, it was just going to be 5 minutes. I'm not sure what that'll look like now. So we'll
Let's
schedule,
block an hour.
we'll schedule some time.
grief.
It'll be virtual.
Is there a chance we could do it in person? I feel like it's kind of a
It's up to your schedules. I
I
mean,
mean, darn.
the only reason I said that was just because every time we do one of these, it's, you guys would like to, we have to meet in person. So I just assumed, but,
Yeah.
you guys decide.
I think I'd prefer in person, but
I would as well.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
All right. When are you guys available?
it has to be before June 1st.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
So I am not available the 13th through the 16th in person. I could do virtual. And I'm not available for either the 23rd through the 27th.
That leaves like the 22nd.
You're not available the 13th through what?
Through the 16th in
Okay.
person, but I could do it virtually.
Okay.
The
If it's
Kinder-
after 5, I can do pretty much anything.
Of those days you just mentioned, for me, the 22nd or next Friday.
I can do either.
I can do either.
I cannot do Friday.
I can do the 22nd, but it probably closer to 6. I have a from 4:30 to 5:30.
So Cece said, just in case you didn't hear Darnell, that she can do the 22nd closer to 6.
I can do 5:45 or 6 on the 22nd if that works for everybody else.
Yeah, 6
I
6
thought Jen
works.
said she couldn't do that day though.
No, I can't. I can't do the 23rd through the 27th.
Oh, okay.
Cece, what time
On the
work?
day off.
What time works for you?
I can make it from Broomfield. I can probably do it at 6.
Okay. You guys want to do 6 o'clock on the 22nd
Yeah, I
Yes.
can do that.
Works for me.
here at the school?
Yes, I just checking the school calendar
Yes.
No.
Please do.
because May is busy month.
Yeah, that would
Uh,
be helpful.
You know, we have a few things happening. We have a spring choir showcase at 5:30 that evening, which is already has the auditorium booked from 5:30 to 6. It probably will be busy until 6:30, to be honest, in here. So if we would like an in-person meeting with this setup, that is not possible at that time. We could certainly do it later, but we would have to clear out. I don't know that we would be able to transition promptly between those two events. We can certainly use another space or look for another space within the building, but this space is not available on that day and time.
Do you think it would work at 6:30 though?
This wouldn't be able
Not to get
set
this
up.
set up.
Okay.
This takes a bit of time to produce this setup and then also check our sound and video streaming and all of those pieces to make sure
So
that
another place in the building would, I mean,
there's no other place in the building that would have this setup
Stream it.
capability.
and we
But-
have to do this setup.
That's up to the board how you would like, if typically this is our in-person setup, but it's up to the board how you would like to do that. But
So
it just saying.
I believe that Bill has told us that we do not have to stream. However, I don't know if you would want to do a vote that was not public for officer roles and what the perception of that behind closed doors. So
I
I would,
agree with
I would
that.
not want to do that.
Can we do that? I mean, because like, what would we do virtually, right? We would all be on our computers virtually. Could we have it go that direction on the virtual part, but we're in person?
Like use a
So we could
Zoom
be in
link
just a
for all of
regular
us.
Room, but we're all on Zoom, but we're together.
We could probably,
Oh.
I mean, it would be, it's, so the space should be big enough also for the public to join, should the public want to join. In there, we can
Yeah.
do a classroom situation, which would be fine. It could just get a little tight. Like we have a camera set up that we can use to stream it out if we need to do that. It's not as, it won't be as, like the reason we come in here is because it's able to stream it to YouTube really easily. The sound is very easy for people at home to hear. The space is open so people can, a number of people can join should they want to. I know our audience has been, the biggest audience we have is always when we have the kids. So that's always fun. But anyway, that's why we do it in here. I don't know, Jason, how long does it usually take you to set this all up? Does it take you to set this all up on a day when it goes well? Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So if this room clears out at 6:30, if the space clears out by 6:30, it's going to be 7:30 before the space is probably ready to go to start the board meeting. And we can certainly start it late if you all would like to, but
No, I'm just saying, like, we wouldn't have to have the setup because if we were going to be virtual anyway, we would just be on our computers. So why would we need the whole setup? You see what I'm saying? Like we could still use the space or whatever, but you wouldn't have to set up anything. We can just use the computers. It's virtual. If they want to come, they can come, but you don't have to set up everything. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't need all the fancy, we don't need the tables because it's not going to be that long,
Right.
hopefully.
In the past, we've done stuff in the cafeteria, or is that still going to be a little bit too busy with everybody in and out?
at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria won't work. We have we'd have to do it later than 6 o'clock. So Innovation Learning uses our cafeteria until 6 p.m.
Gotcha.
for student care. We would be able to probably get in there and get set up maybe going by 6:30. But that could
That would be fine.
potentially be an option.
What's wrong with the 10th?
Mayor's can't do the 10th.
Any other days?
What about
I can't do the 10th either.
17th,
Every Friday is baseball.
16th?
Hold on.
I could do. Yeah, I can do the 16th.
As long as it's after school, I can do this. Yeah.
I can do the 16th after school.
Darnell, I think you said anything after 5:30 was fine, right? Darnell?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Jen, is the 16th better?
Not for this room, but I told you May is busy. We are busy people here at the Bromley. But we could look for one of the other alternative locations if you'd like to do that. The 15th is open in here. However, I don't know exactly what the prep for the Bromley review is on the 16th, the show that Mr. JD is putting on, Mr. Rogers is. And so I'm guessing the 14th, we have a band performance in here. The 15th, I'm guessing they're going to be getting set up for the Bromley review, and the Bromley review is on the 16th. Monday, the 13th is open, wide open. There's probably going to be some chairs here that we could probably move and
I could just call in virtually.
It's up to you. I mean,
I'm
Did you just say the 13th?
Monday
Yeah.
the 13th.
Monday, the 13th is open in here.
Not available.
I mean, I can call them virtually. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's me.
Other days the soonest it would be available again, like I said, would be after the choir showcase or the 23rd of May. That school is out at that point. And so that's the last day of school. And so, our events have concluded for the year. Wide open.
Which day?
Thursday, May 23rd. Oh, but Jen, I know you said you were not able to make that day.
Unless we want to meet at 6 a.m.
Negative.
That would be-
However, I could
No.
vote
Dedicated, but
virtually
not-
on the 23rd. If everybody else can do it, I could just call in
But are
virtually.
there other days that you could do that too?
I could call in virtually almost any day that we have talked about.
The other day that is also open is Tuesday, May 28th is that day, or Thursday, May 30th is also open. I mean,
I'm not available the 28th.
Okay.
It's my kiddo's birthday.
I'm not available on the
Not doing anything.
30th after about 5. I would have to do it earlier.
Can everybody else do the 23rd? You said you can call in.
I'll call in.
thank you.
Mhm.
This is the last day
School,
of school,
yeah,
though.
school gets out at 11:30 that day, I think.
I mean, it's great.
I
It's
can
fine.
do-
We should do that. honest.
We could meet here at noon because I only have a half day that day too.
I may not
we have
be
a
available.
wonderful staff barbecue
the
plan,
23rd?
so I am not available until probably after staff leave the building that day.
Oh, well, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So that's fine later in the evening, just not during the workday. So.
Next week?
Oh, yes. We are booked Tuesday through Thursday here in the auditorium at the Bromley. So really your option would be Monday, which is really kind of a long weekend to think about the choice, I guess, that you all would want
That
to
might be
make.
reasonable. I mean,
I'm
if we wait too long, we might forget stuff.
good.
I'm good with that.
I can do the 6th.
I can do the 6th as well.
Everybody can do the 6th.
Yep.
At what time?
Let's do that.
Okay. Does that give you enough time, Cece?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go ahead and set that up as well? Just so it's on there.
And we said 6, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just say I appreciate everybody's thought on this, and I think Darnell, you are a very well qualified candidate for this as well. So whichever direction it goes, I believe the board is in good hands. So, but thank you guys for all accommodating for a special meeting. Well, and we got to vote for you guys too. So
Yeah.
there's that too.
Thank you
It
both
kinda
for
worked out, right?
applying.
Kind of worked. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me just double check. I'm just double checking one more
Yeah,
thing.
me too.
All right. Last motion of the evening. I think we're ready for that. Is there anything else under new business? All right. I motion to adjourn this meeting at 10:20 p.m. Is there a second?
She done. Voting is beginning.
It is not. There it is.
Yes, it is. I did this time. I checked myself. Darnell doesn't want to enter.
Do you, what's your, it's not coming through, Darnell. What, how do you vote on that? You want to stick around?
Vote yay.
I voted for it.
Okay.
It's done.
Cece had you. She went ahead and just voted yes for you.
I got her back.
I think that's a reasonable one.
That carry? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 10:20.
Everything's already
Everything shut down.
halfway to the car.